Hello students, welcome back to the class. Children, today in this session we will discuss the 8th chapter from your honeycomb text, that is fire, friend and foe. First of all, let us know what is fire. So we all know that fire is a chemical reaction in which energy in the form of heat is produced. But here it's also given that fire is a friend and a foe. So we know what is a friend. So here it says that fire can be our friend, and what is a foe? It can be our enemy also. It can destroy us. So how? Let us check on in this chapter. So fire is both useful and dangerous. And what is fire? How did we discover it? And how do we know to control it? All this we are going to understand in this chapter. So, as you all know that early man didn't know what fire was. Maybe they knew, but early man must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire for himself. And we all know that fire is powerful as well as it is dangerous. And he was frightened. Maybe the early man was frightened. Fire might have puzzled the early man, but we know what is fire. Just now I told you what is fire. So what is fire, children? I told you that fire is a chemical reaction in which energy in the form of heat is produced. When oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. Now, three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen and heat. Wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol are some examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on a smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we need heat, and before it catches fire, we generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature, what is this temperature called? It is called as a flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. You can see there on page number 115 in your textbook. So here you can see in the slide as well, flash point is the lowest temperature at which a liquid can form an ignitable mixture in air near the surface of the liquid. It's sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. How we understood that? Initially, that fire is a friend and a foe. It can be our friend, it can save us, it can help us in many ways, but at times it can destroy us as well. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured because of this fire. As I told you, fire can be our enemy as well. Just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put off. In each one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place, and we often let the fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. The second way of putting out fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered by a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material, and the carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. So I told you what is a flash point. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around it, the flame bringing it down its temperature below the flash point. Sometimes water is sprayed on fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. So, what happens? Some fires cannot be put out with water, like electrical appliances. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly and carrying the burning oil. What happens? It's spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. So what happens? The person who is spraying the water might receive an electric shock and he or she can be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying new ways to prevent fires, isn't it, children? So long ago, many years ago, there were no firemen. So what happened when fire broke out? Everybody became a firefighter. People formed human chains, and what did they do? They passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. Now there are laws about building constructions which ensure that space is left building in between the buildings to reduce fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. So this you can see in the reference link. The discovery of fire and its uses helped the early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world, and fire is indeed a friend. But as I told you, not only a friend, it can be our dangerous enemy as well once it gets out of control. So now children, keep your textbooks ready. Page number 119, there is some textual exercise which we will be discussing in our online class. Not only that, we will also know more about fire and how and what are the measures we need to take at home and school to be safe from fire. So you keep your points ready for the discussion. Thank you for listening, children.